there's one. Oh, he's not a big one, but he's a fish. By golly, he's a bass. It's a bass. Oh, these fish are cold. Look at that. Oh, there we go. Little guy right here at Alamo Lake. Folks, today I'm throwing an underspin. The water's cold, man. The water's like 58 degrees, 57 degrees in this neck of the woods. I love the bluffy areas like this, and I like to parallel them with my little underspin when the water's cold and just slow roll it through there. You know, guys like to throw those A-rigs. This time of year, a lot of times these fish like to gather up and hit them shad, and I love it because it's spinner bait or underspin or A-rig, you know, the Alabama rig. This type of technique though is a lot of fun to throw. Of course, you can't get your hook tied up into the tail, but in saying that, it's really cool. The underspin is a bladed head that has a little swim bait on it, just like so. You just throw it out and reel it in like a spinner bait, pretty much. And man, when they're on the shad, whoo, it can be a lot of fun to throw. There's one. Oh, I thought. Oh yeah, there's one. He's got me caught in something. That's a pretty good sized fish right there. There we go. Oh my goodness, folks, look at this fish. Look at this fish. There we go. Those are the ones we're talking about when you're talking about coming close to the dam up here. A little bit better fish right there. Come on, come on. Come here, son. Not a giant, but a fun one right there. Yeah, those are the kind of fish that I like coming to the dam for, or bigger, but that one right there is a real nice fish. On that underspin, you know, the thing is, you may not get a whole lot of bites on it, but what I like about it is it gets down there. He got me caught up down there on a rock or something, but we're also fishing this shade. And you know, something to remember too, even though it's cold water, they'll use that as ambush areas. So you gotta try that every so often. When you get the shade like this, throw in it. Work your bait out of it, or you know, parallel and bring it through there. They could be hiding in there, they ambush their prey, and you could catch some fish out of there. That was a nice fish on the underspin. You just throw it out there and slow roll it. It's a lot of fun. 17-pound test line, or actually 14 on this one. 14-pound test line's perfect for that. So it works out really good. I gotta retie because he got me kind of caught up in a little bush or something right there. I couldn't get him out. Ooh, I got another one. I got another one. Oh, right there. They're eating that. They're eating that. Oh, come on. I don't want to go in the area. I'm trying to keep my trolling motor out of the area. Come on, son. Hey, you know, that shade really works. It really works. All right, come in here. Come in, come on in here. There's 3 fish pretty quick on this bait, you know? Look at how beautiful that fish is. It's fat and chunky. They're good and healthy here at Alamo Lake. Alamo's got some good fish in it. I'll tell you, you know, when you're ever in doubt, especially in the wintertime, bluffs are a lot of fun to fish. This is a steep wall, and the one thing I've always loved about the bluff walls is the fish usually will move up and down on this bluff wall. Even with the cold weather, if they have to go deep, they'll just kind of go down, or they'll move straight up and down. It's easier to find the fish that way. If they're on flats or something, you got to time it when they're in and out of the flat. But right here, they just move up and down on this bluff. And you can see how they use this bluff right here as shelving. See how it's coming down? It's got shelves, it's got shelves. Well, that's what's underneath us. So as I'm bringing that bait in, they could be sitting on the bottom of this shelf here. I'm casting, say, up in that area and just bringing it across the bottom of that shelf, and I can feel it ticking across the bottom. And the one thing I love about this bait, ricocheting it off the bottom, having a little flash like that, they love that. It's a lot of fun to throw. Got him. I got another one right there. Oh, he's not real big, but it's a fish. He wants to come to this side. Well, let him come to this side. Not a giant bass, but they're eating that underspin right there. Let's let him go. You know, there's not a whole lot to it. You just throw it out there, throw it. The one thing I will say is when you're throwing this particular underspin's 3/8 ounce, the 1/2 ounce in those neighborhoods when you're fishing the deep bluff walls and the fish are deeper. You can get down to those fish and you can see I'm barely creeping my bait along here with this 6.3-to-1 reel. There's another one. Oh, nope, I just got caught up in a rock. That happens. Don't act like you're the only one. All right, here we go. All right. No, you got to use a little bit heavier underspin. So it's good to get a bunch of different sizes. So when you're fishing that deeper water, you can get down there and just slow roll it. Just slow roll it. And what's happening right now is I'm really not getting that big, I'm gonna knock the rod out of your hand bite. What it is it just gets spongy. They just they get behind it, they just inhale the bait and it'll feel like you just hooked some weeds, you know? You can throw it on a Kitech or you can throw it on the Bass Pro swim baits. Get something in a shad pattern. I think this is electric shad. The thing is, if the water was muddy, it'd be a little tougher. The water's really not muddy. I can see, about 3 feet down. So with that being said, I wouldn't recommend throwing this bait if the water was muddy, but if it's somewhat clear where they can see it and feel the vibration, especially along the bank like this, I'd give it a shot. The one thing you have to be really careful with is making sure you don't start fishing too fast after you catch a fish or two on it, because you have a tendency to want to go down that bank because everything starts looking good to you. And it works that way with just about any bait that you're throwing that you should slow down on. So give the bait an opportunity to catch you a fish. You know, today we're throwing this underspin on a bait caster because I'm throwing that 3/8 ounce and then sometimes a 1/2 ounce underspin. And it allows me to throw it basically like a spinner bait. So in saying that, I'm gonna throw it on a little bit heavier line, and then I'm gonna use my bait casting outfit with that way I've got a lot more leverage. And like I said, when it's this heavy, it's easier to throw it on the bait caster. Now, one thing that's very important to remember is that they make all different sizes of these baits. So when you drop down to say a 1/8 ounce underspin, which would be something like this, what you want to do is go to your spinning outfit, drop it down to 8-pound test line. We're going to throw a little bit smaller bait. Look how much smaller that bait is. And so what happens is when we throw that smaller bait, it's a lot easier to cast. It gets down there a lot quicker with that 8-pound test line. It's a lot more subtle, and a lot of times when the shad are really small, it's better to go to the smaller size bait. Downsizing sometimes when you're not getting bit on the bigger stuff and you see the little shad, if you even see them, sometimes you see a dead one floating on the surface, try to match your hatch somewhat. It doesn't mean that using the big bait is not gonna work. Sometimes they exclude that bait from everything else and it's an easier meal, it's a bigger meal, and they'll go after it. It actually sets it apart from the others. So don't ever think that you always have to match the hatch, but a lot of times it's nice to. And especially when you're just going down the bank for individual fish. Again, in clear water, I like to use, the silver blades. They make them in gold blades. When the water's a little off color, sometimes I like to go to that gold blade. You get a little bit more flash off the sun in that muddier water, and it really works good. But I like the boot tail when it comes to the back of the bait itself. When I put this bait on, it's very important to slide it on and then make sure that the boot tail is directed towards the bottom. Now here's the thing. Sometimes when you start getting quite a few bites, your bait has a tendency to want to slide up and down this underspin. So what happens is what I like to do is you can even add a dab of super glue and then slide your bait up onto the underspin, and then that'll help that bait from sliding from when you're starting to make more casts after you catch a couple fish on it. You can get more use out of your bait. There's one. I just kind of let him take it. I love it when it's this much fun. Oh, that's a little bit better fish too, son. That's a little bit better fish. No, get in here. Look at that, little underspin bass. Come here. Yeah, that's fun. That's just a fun size fish to catch right there. That is blast. They're good and healthy, good and chunky, and they love underspins. Let me explain to you a little bit why I chose the underspin today. The main reason I chose it when we got here was because this time of year in the fall, late fall, early winter, the bass tend to school up and start chasing shad. And you'll see a bunch of shad pods out there. You can spoon them, or you can find some shad pattern type baits, rattle traps, crankbaits, swim baits. They get down there, little swim baits, the Alabama rig, things like that are gonna work real good, the spinner bait. So knowing that the fish are pretty much primarily going after the shad to feed up for the winter like that, it's hard not to throw this bait. And it's a lot of fun. Like I said, if you've thrown a spinner bait before, it's almost no different than throwing the spinner bait. The blade twirls underneath instead of on top, and you can have a lot of fun with that bait. The other thing to think about too is how long have we had that? We've got quite a few fish on this bait now, and you can see that it's chewed up a little bit, but our swim bait's still hanging tough. It really is just hanging tough. Now I felt that fish bite, and I could tell that it was a fish. If it feels alive, it normally is alive. But I let him inhale it a little bit because that other one came off, so I let him take it a little bit before I set the hook good. And I got a good little tip on this rod, and it's working out great for this particular bait. Hey folks, for my tip of the week, one thing really important, and this is a big tip, is when you hook a fish on this bait, you have got to keep the pressure on the fish. And what I mean by that is don't let any slack get in your line. Don't put your rod tip down and put a slack in your line. Whatever you do, keep the fish coming, keep the pressure on the fish. Even if you slow reel, let him fight a little bit. But once you let the pressure off, because that head is so heavy, a lot of times if you put any kind of slack in your line, that hook can pop out so easy in their mouth and you'll lose some fish. So it's very important to make sure you keep the pressure on the fish. Don't put any slack into the fish, because you'll lose fish if you put slack into it, because they use it like a swinging head or something, and they'll fling that thing right out with no pressure on this line. So always keep the pressure on the line and you're better off catching those fish. That's my tip of the week. There's one. There's a good one. There's one. Yeah, that right off that point too. Oh, he's not a bad fish right there, folks. Not a bad one. Yeah, look at there. I love it. Oh, I barely got him hooked. Oh, that would have fell out. Look at that. That's why you keep pressure on the fish. Look at that. Just beautiful, beautiful fish. They look good and healthy. They're cold. One thing very important about fishing this particular technique is your rod. It's really important. So I'm throwing it's a medium fast action type N series rod. It's a 7-footer. And because you want them to be able to inhale the bait, I want a softer tip. I don't want to throw like a spinnerbait type tip. I want something that's got a little bit softer tip on it. And that way it gives them an opportunity to inhale the bait. And then I've got all this backbone to set the hook with. And with no weed guard or anything on this particular bait, it'll get the job done. I'll get that hook in them. There's one. He doesn't feel too big, but there's one. Right off that point. See, I threw right off that point. Not a bad fish. They are liking this because they are eating shad. Look at that. That's why you need that special tip right there. See where I got him hooked? He didn't take it all the way. Besides that, if he did, well, that's about what he got in there, but nice bass. We'll let him go. That underspin is surely underestimated in Arizona lakes. I don't see a lot of people throwing this underspin. Not a lot. They make a bunch of different sizes, but man, when they're on the shad, they'll eat that thing. Well, we have gone to the end of our bluff, and now I'm starting to get off onto this flat type stuff. Nothing I'm really looking for in this area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pack back up, and I'm gonna go right back up the dam and maybe fish the other side and work our way down, see how that works for us. I almost wanna fish that side again just to see if they're schooling in there and I can catch a few more, but we'll try the other side and see what we can get. But so far, so good. We didn't fish very far down that stretch and caught quite a few fish. We're gonna go back and try it again on the other side. So one thing different I've already noticed about this side of the bluffs that we're fishing up here at the dam is it's shallower on this end. Like right now, my boat's sitting in 19 foot of water versus over there when you're in 30 foot of water. That could make a big difference on which side's probably the better side at this point. We don't know yet, we just started fishing this, but that right there can be the difference maker. The other thing that's really important about when you're fishing this bait that I want to explain is we were talking about the different shelves that are on this lake or on the bluffs. Over there it was more dominant, here it's not as dominant. But the bottom line is it works the same way either way when you toss this bait out there. When I toss this bait out there and I let it fall and I'm starting to reel it, I'm reeling it really slow, really slow. Once in a while I'll pop it just to make sure that blade's turning and then start reeling slow. But as you're reeling, it's gonna sink down, especially if you're reeling slow, and you're gonna feel the bottom. Once you feel the bottom, then pick up the pace just a little bit to keep your blade just barely off that bottom. And that's where those fish are hitting it. You want to touch it, but you don't want to lay it on there, if that makes any sense. So when you throw out there and you let this bait fall to the bottom as you're slowly reeling it and you're feeling stuff tap down there, that's a good thing. But if it's dragging and that's all you're feeling, you want that blade just up a little higher so you can get a little bit of flash off of it and a little bit of vibration. There's one. He finally got that. Not a big fish, not a big one. They're all over down through here. You know, what we're doing is making another swipe down through here. I went down that other side a little ways. I did not like the depth of water on that side, and I love these ledges, so we decided to come back down and do that. It's been fun. I'll tell you what, grab some of these. You'll catch a lot of fish on them this time of year, slow rolling them just like a spinnerbait in the wintertime. This little bit of breeze is helping us a ton, folks, and I'll tell you, you'll have a lot of fun. Alamo offers a lot of different structure and things to fish. Well, if you want to flip, if you want to get up here and do this kind of fishing, or just drop shot. I mean, it's a lot of fun here at Alamo, and they got great camping spots and places to enjoy the outdoors here. And what's even nicer is there's not a whole lot of people this time of year. It's just basically the fishermen out having a good time, whether it's crappie or bass. Get out here and have some fun. Thanks for joining us on the water. I'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.